Good morning and welcome to the beginning of what is going to be a food forest. Is that a good practice start? Sometimes you got to do that to practice. Welcome to a brand new project, to the seed of a new project, I should say, because what we're doing today is we're building a food forest, or at least I'm starting the process, the long, arduous process of turning this land that you see behind me, and also, more importantly, the land that I'm going to show you in a minute right in front of me, turning it into a fruitful, luscious food forest. This video is going to be the start, the seeds. I want to tour the land before I start to, devour the ground and do all of that sort of stuff. I've also got a little blemish on my nose that I kind of hate to see in the camera, but that's just vanity. We don't need to talk about that. To be honest with y'all, my dream has always been to be able to walk out into the garden and just see a little something over here. Oh, a little apricot. Nibble on that. Some fresh grown peas right over there. I love snacking on like fresh garden peas right off the vine. So that's always been sort of my dream, to turn a piece of land like this, or really any piece of land, into something. I thought it was going to be a lot more when I purchased it, to be honest with you. But this is my little seed starter kit. So I got about 6 little fruit trees here, and we're going to go through the names and all this stuff once we actually get these things in the ground. But for now, I just want to sort of show you everything that I've been collecting. Again, this is more of a tour video to kind of get us all acquainted with the land and everything here. Another thing that I ordered as sort of a food forest starter kit is I ordered a truck full of garden soil. So it's basically compost. This is a Murray's blend of garden soil, and it's pretty fun to touch. But the reason that I ordered all of that, even though I've probably got tons of, perfectly perfect soil out in those woods over there, I did want to have something to kind of, get everything started. So when I start to dig the beds in and around here somewhere, or maybe even down back in there, when I start to dig the beds, I've got some actual soil that I know is full of nutrients that I can use to kind of get everything going. And then once we start, getting the actual forest planted and growing, that's when I'll start going in there and harvesting some of the amazing soil and everything that forest back there has been producing. So one of my main challenges with this property is obviously, if you haven't noticed yet, all of these like massive trees growing basically all around this place. Like I said before, the forest back there is part of the property, and it goes back for, I think it's like a whole another acre and stuff over there. Some of the trees have been cleared in this main area, so that's probably where we're going to be concentrating for the beginning stages of this food forest. But otherwise, yeah, that's the main thing that I'm contending with here in this garden, is going to be shade. It's almost July right now, so let's just say it's July. It's about 10 o'clock in the morning, so it's midsummer, or it's kind of the beginning part of summer. It's 10 o'clock in the morning, and as you can see, this part, even this big open space in the on the property, is not getting very much light at all. Now, the reason that I came to this place in the first place was because way back on my channel, one of the first things I started doing, I was actually building video games a long time ago, but one of the things that I did after that, one of the main things that kind of got me into all of this nature and gardening and stuff like that, was I was spending just a ton of time hiking. I live in North Carolina, so I was hiking all over the North Carolina mountains. I was taking in the majesty of Mother Nature and just kind of falling in love with plants and just everything, really just how kind of Mother Nature works. I love the system, especially the system, like a wooded environment like that. Even though that's not necessarily what we're doing here, we're building a food forest and we're going to be wanting to take advantage of the light and the things over there. I'm obsessed. I love just the ecosystem that is a forest in general. But I remember this specific hike, and I'm pretty sure I even said this on video, where I just wanted like I had taken in all of this nature, and there was just something, there was a yearning inside of me that just wanted a piece of land that I had a little bit more control over, that I could actually put my labor into, that I could actually work with, and somehow mix my human influence in with Mother Nature, and we could work together and we could create something luscious. That was sort of the dream and the epiphany that hit me when I was hiking around and doing all of that sort of stuff. So I slowly started, dreaming of that and thinking about, finding some sort of a piece of land and transforming it, and, just like listening to nature and creating things. Again, it's that human influence connected with the nature that I'm like really passionate about. So that was sort of the dream from the beginning, was let's find a place to do all this stuff. Now where I live with my family I rent a house right now, so I don't own a piece of property, and it's actually, I live in like a neighborhood, so it doesn't have any of this kind of awesome stuff around. It's just like a bare, open, it's like a boring suburban neighborhood. But I've got kids, and they've got friends, and they're doing all of that sort of stuff. So I haven't been able to do anything like this on my own property, but sort of magically one day it just kind of popped into my head. It just sort of magically popped into my head that my wife's mom actually owns this property. It's not like I didn't know she owned this property. I spend a lot of time with my wife's mom. It just had never really dawned on me that, I didn't necessarily need to hold myself back with all the years of searching for a piece of land and all that sort of stuff. And it just kind of, in fact, this has happened multiple times in my life, where things just sort of, it's almost like you're thinking about them as hard as you possibly can, and you're trying to figure out, how am I going to do this? How am I going to achieve this dream? And once you sort of like let go of that constant pressure of forcing yourself to come up with the greatest idea, suddenly sometimes things, I'm not even going to say sometimes, most times things, the answer has been waiting in front of you the entire time. Take it for what it will, but it's been my experience many times over and over, is that when I just kind of chill out and I stop trying so hard to achieve something I'm going to achieve, all of a sudden the answer kind of pops up right in front of you. And for me, the answer was this place. It's in my family already. My mother-in-law, who I'm sure you'll see on some future videos, who lives in that house right there. She's a little bit older. She's in her late 70s, so she doesn't really have she can't really get out here and work in the woods and chainsaw and dig flower beds and all that kind of stuff. So it's sort of this like beautiful connection that happened, where I am able to basically come out here and do whatever I want. And then me and her can kind of bond over the different things that we're growing in our yard and stuff like that. But also, hopefully, I'm building something that will last for, multiple generations after this. So I've been kind of showing you the greenhouse a little bit in the background. We'll come back to that. There's not too much to it right now. As I continue my story, I'm going to go down here and show you the pond and the cabin that we built. So anyways, I came out to this piece of land, and I don't know why my first thing was to build this little A-frame cabin, but I guess I kind of felt like I wanted to have some sort of a structure in here. I wanted sort of a base camp, and that's what this was. Plus, it was like a really fun project. It's it is the coolest thing that I've ever built, and it's in sort of a bit of a state of disrepair right now. Don't worry, we're going to get it fixed up. I still have not put a door handle on the door, and inside is a bit of a mess. It's kind of just been collecting leaves and storage stuff. You can see I never sealed that part in right at the top. I even bought the, where are they? I bought the little metal things to go over that, but I never really did it. I just kind of like dropped this place. And I'll tell you why in just a second, but let's move over to the pond. So I was over here. Again, the pond is in a bit of disarray. It needs a definite clean out. Some of the rocks are falling down on the side. I need to pull all of those leaves out of there. The bog filter, surprisingly, is doing pretty well with all these like weird little plants in here. But I need to clean this thing out. I need to pull all the water and get some nice fresh water going in there, get the circulation going again, and just kind of bring this thing back to life. Because even though this little area doesn't get very much sunlight at all, and we're not going to be having all of our fruit trees and our veggie plants and stuff over there, this is the thing that I want to, this is what's going to help start to bring the wildlife out of that forest, closer towards this part of the land. So besides all of the planting and everything that we're going to be doing out there, I'm going to concentrate on projects like this as well, where we're creating little environments for all of the little bugs and the birds and the little critters and animals that live in that forest, to sort of like invite them this direction. So we saw the cabin back there. We took a peek at the dirty pond right over there. But I didn't continue my story. So that's sort of where I started. Building this cabin, building this pond, all of this stuff, this sort of infrastructure was where I started on this land. And I did that for, I don't know, probably 6 months or so is how I was working out here. I even started doing some little garden beds. Can't really see them anymore. I dug this whole area out, all this part where you see the red mulch that we're definitely going to get rid of, because I hate that red mulch. I hate those like colored mulches. I just want natural. But nonetheless, I had dug all of this part out right in here. I had amended all of these beds with like nice compost and stuff like that. So I sort of got started with what we're continuing now. But there was a few things that happened in between that sort of just made me like abruptly stop. And I'm not going to blame this on anything besides myself, because the fact of the matter is that I sort of gave up on this property, and I abandoned it for some time, until now, actually. But I abandoned this property until now. Now, the reason that I did that is because, just to make excuses, the reason that I did that is because, number one, it was starting to get a little bit colder around here. So it was starting to turn into winter and things like that. I hadn't had much gardening experience. Like I said, I had, done some of the, I'd started working with some of the soil and started digging some of the beds and doing some stuff like that. But I hadn't progressed really too far with the gardening. And as winter was approaching, I was starting to get a little bit, I was still really in love with plants and things like that. I sort of wanted to continue that journey. And so I had convinced myself that I needed to basically find a new passion, rather than kind of like working with Mother Nature and building a beautiful food forest. Like I had always sort of envisioned, my human brain was sort of telling me that, you've got to do something indoors. You've got to build terrariums and potted plants and all of that sort of stuff. Maybe that's more your thing, so you don't have to worry about the summer, or you don't have to worry about the winter and all of that sort of stuff happening. I want to show you this real quick. This is just a bunch of wood that's been sitting in there. And I think this is turkey tail, this mushroom, but it's just growing all over this stuff. And you know what's exciting about that to me is that is fertility. Another thing we did on my channel is I actually plugged all of these logs here with like mushroom plugs. And I haven't seen anything come out of them yet. Besides, we got some of these like weird little foresty mushrooms kind of coming out. And we've got some of this like kind of weird stuff growing on the top. But nonetheless, I haven't really seen any of the mushrooms I was intending to come out of there come out yet. So I don't know, I'm just excited about, this is the sort of stuff I'm excited about, is like big log piles and things like that. But the story has actually taken a little bit longer than I thought. I thought I'd be able to kind of spit this out in like a paragraph and just do it at the intro or something. But it's taken a little bit longer to say, so I guess we're just going to go with the flow. And so let me continue the story where I left off, where I had decided that I needed to do everything indoors so that I could avoid the winter and I could continue this passion for plants and things that I had at least found that spark where I knew that I wanted the plants and stuff like that. So I did potted plants and all that sort of stuff for a long time. Built a lot of terrariums. Still really love that stuff. Very passionate about terrariums. In fact, on this piece of property, I don't want to say much. We may build some terrarium-esque things, but if we do build it, it's going to be something that we can walk into, something a little bit more life-sized than the tiny little terrariums that I've been creating and stuff on my channel previously. So I started to get a little bit depressed, and I kind of found myself in this weird position where I was back where I started right before I had done any of the work on this piece of property. And again, my human brain had kind of like wiggled something around where I was convinced in my head that to build a food forest, I needed to find the perfect piece of land. I needed to find it. It had to be facing the right direction. It had to have sunny areas and, you know, more wooded areas. This one's a little more wooded area. But I had in my head that I needed to find this special piece of property, and I was starting to build up these ideas in my head, like building these big grandiose things and like doing all of this work. And I kept running into roadblocks with doing that kind of stuff, finding land, and you know, just all of that. I just kept kind of like finding myself not quite finding the way back until again, strangely enough, it dawned on me, my head cleared for, you know, at least enough time to realize that, hey, you've got this piece of property that you've already started working on. You've got a cabin over there. You've got a greenhouse over there. You've got a beautiful pond. You've even got some open space in the front. You've been amending the soil for like a year now. So although we don't have too many beds and stuff to plant in, and we're going to be creating a lot more of those spaces, you know, all of the work that we've kind of done on this previously isn't going to waste, because all of the soil that's sitting under those plants and everything over there is it's just ripe. Let's go take a little walk through the greenhouse, and I'll show you the shed and stuff back here as well. But yeah, I always knew I wanted to put together something a little bit more in harmony with nature. I wanted to work with the outdoors. I wanted to work with plants, of course. I kind of had fallen into that for a period of time. And then for the reasons that I described, I kind of have fallen out of it again, but now I'm back, and that's the point. Let me show you this empty, ratty looking greenhouse that we're going to fix up. I'll probably put some of that compost in here. I want everything on this property to be really natural. So I don't want to do any like rows and that kind of stuff. I just want to have everything kind of curved and a little more natural, like Mother Nature does it herself out there in the woods. And by that, I mean all of the things that we're going to be putting into this open space as well. I want everything that I build to look like a human is organizing it, but to also look like it's Mother Nature just kind of doing its thing. And, you know, so for that reason, one of the main design rules that I'm putting down for this property is I just want everything to be nice and really organic. So anytime I can avoid having like, you know, just like a long path of vegetables or something like that, I'm going to do it. I'm going to focus more instead on planting little nests. So planting a fruit tree or something, and then having a nice big bed around it, and then planting other plants in there, planting some vegetables or whatever ends up kind of getting into there. That's kind of the idea. This back here is the shed, which I actually need to grab the key for. But while I get that, which I actually just did, I did forget to show you one other thing that's going to be a part of this food forest, a big part of this food forest, is in addition to my trees and everything over there, my fruit trees, I've got this big box of seeds. We're going to get into this in the planting videos pretty soon, but I will say a little bit about this stuff. I've just got a huge variety of seeds. I think what I'm going to do is just direct sow everything, especially since we're starting a little bit late into the summer here. Got some cool wildflower seeds and just a ton of variety of vegetables and stuff. Got this big bag of like cover crop seeds down in here. So that's pretty cool. And then the idea with all those seeds is basically once I start getting the beds and stuff into the land here, I just want to start to fill it with life as fast as I possibly can. So like I said before, I'm probably going to direct sow everything right into the ground. I'm going to My goal is basically to just start getting the vibe pumping of the food forest. Sorry, I had to slow my talking down there a little bit while I unlocked that. Is this good content? Taking this lock off. I don't know, it's kind of hard to do, especially with one hand. This is my shed. This is one of my prized new investments. Was this little gorilla cart wagon. I haven't even used it yet. I got it to move all of that compost that was at the front of the driveway, and then I decided I didn't need to waste my energy doing that, especially since, well, you can't really see it, but the compost is kind of sitting beside all the place where we're gonna do the beds. Got my little rack of garden tools here. I would say this bad boy right here is my favorite, probably the one that I used the most, although I do got a machete coming, which I think I'm gonna use a lot too. I've got just some cool, just some stuff over here. Oh, another really awesome thing that I'm excited about is this 80 volt battery chainsaw that I got right here. So this is gonna be a lot of fun. We're gonna need this to be cutting wood, doing things like that. I didn't have one of those before, and I always kind of wished I had, so now I do. So anyways, that is the basic gist of what I'm working with. Let me take a little bit of count real quick. We've got the greenhouse, we've got the pond, we've got the cabin. I spent plenty of time talking about the big, more open area. We're gonna go into the design of everything, probably in the next video or in one of the future videos coming up real soon here. As I start to put those fruit trees and stuff in the ground, I will show you one more little space. This is the back of the house. And this would actually be the south-facing part. So this should actually get some of the most sunlight, except you can see that, again, we've just got like 80 or 100 or something foot trees just all around here. But there is all of this space as well on the other side. We can plant some stuff maybe on top of that hill. And, again, do some planting and things like there in that main part. There's going to be a ton of things happening. I think I've got the motivation this time. And I think as I start to watch these plants grow and I really start to see this whole space turn into something amazing, isn't that what we're all looking for these days? Is just some way of continuing. Sorry, I'm flipping the camera around a little bit because I was checking my audio, making sure it was recording. What was I saying? But basically, we're all just looking for that motivation in one way or another. We eat because we're hungry, and we get into relationships because we want a partner and we want to be in love, and we fall in love, while we're talking about love, with Mother Nature by taking on projects like this. And I'm just going to trust that that everything is working out perfectly. So look around. This is like, I could clear a bunch of this stuff out. I could even get in here and start hacking some of these trees down and creating more light down in here in the future. I could create some stuff over there. There's also things we could create back there. And this space right here seems like, this is kind of like my cozy space.